What's up, everyone? This is In Camp Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Hepler. Today, I'm coming at you from a very brand new, newly empty, it, just a really cool space. I'm super excited. I'm thankful for my wife who helped me make it my very own podcasting space in my very own house. I'm super stoked. It's cool. It's got deer antlers, skulls, fox furs, all the memorabilia from my grandfathers. It's really cool. It's a really cool space. So I'm excited to talk to you guys in it. Anyway, there's a couple things that I'd like to share that I think you could probably get something from. But if you're not interested in listening to this part, just skip ahead and go ahead and listen to the rest of the podcast. I am recently off the lake today with two friends. We were bass fishing at a local lake, and the bass fishing today was not that great. But we, uh, we had a guy that's kinda new to this kind of fishing up, so we wanted to show him a good time, so we ended up finding a school of crappies, and in a pretty short amount of time, I think we caught 50 or 60. Man, it was fun. I love crappies are probably my favorite. I really quite enjoy them. But the next thing I wanted to recommend to you guys is, I kicked this podcast off kind of in the beginning of fishing season. And remember, it's in camp. I'm not talking about just deer camp. I'm talking about whatever's in season is in camp. So I've recently kind of started this thing where I want to try some different stuff that I've thought about trying and never got around to. But I recently got an invite from my good buddy Rich Yoder to try out some bow fishing. So he's got a jet boat all set up, rigged, ready for it to go, and he was like, "Hey, let's go out for some practice." And I'll tell you why it needed to be some practice, but he's like, "Let's go shoot some carp." So we went out for carp last weekend, and I mean, we each had it was target rich. We each had well over 100 shots, and this was during the day. And I think we probably he killed 26 and I killed 3, so that just tells you how bad I am at bow fishing. But the real reason we wanted to go for practice is because we were, taking a drive down south to go stingray bow fishing. Dude, I can't recommend that enough. It is exciting, it's beautiful on the water, and man, those the stingrays fight hard. They're gonna eat good. I can't wait to try them. But we ended up shooting 16 stingrays and brought them home. We ended up going out into some sandbars, did some clamming, so there's gonna be some clams casino. There's a lot of new meat in my freezer, and I'm really excited about it. So, I can't recommend that enough. You'll have to either, find a friend with a jet boat or, man, get yourself to an outfitted stingray bow shoot because it is well worth your time, and it is a lot of fun, and there's plenty of water to do it down in the southern areas. So I think you're really going to enjoy the guest today. This guy is no stranger to the podcasting space. He's got quite a few things for you to enjoy. You're going to hear about him in the introduction, so I'm going to keep this brief, but this conversation is really great. We go over a lot of different things, just really about how we as hunters and fishermen can make fishing better for our kids, better for the community, better for the United States. Just everything in general. There's a lot of good storytelling in this one that you're really gonna like. I know I really did. And the other thing is we kind of look back onto what got us into our start in hunting, especially the guests, and man, it's really cool. So I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, make sure you listen to the credits at the end to see where you can find our guest and maybe a few little extra things. So enjoy. Thanks for tuning in. This is In Camp Podcast. I am here with the one and only, the nine-figure man. You know what? He's in the upper room. He looks like he's in the upper room today. Mr. Dan Johnson himself. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, dude. Every time anybody tries to hype me up, it's always funny. I was like the one and only. So it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm just a bum, dude. I'm some guy who got lucky. That's it. Hey, dude, before you get started, Yingling, Dude,
Yingling.
Yingling. I wish they sold it west of the Mississippi. They
Yeah.
don't. And it's one of my favorite beers.
It's a great beer. Hey, they actually have quite a few. I like the Lord Chesterfield.
Yeah. I just like the original.
Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah.
Actually, I took my wife to the brewery last. I think it was last summer we went. We went there on a little tour. The brewery is really cool. They built it. They basically carved it into a mountain. So they take you through the brewery and it's pretty neat. But they dug it into the mountain because it has soft water coming out of the mountain, or there was at that point
Mm,
in time. So it made better beer. But pretty,
awesome.
yeah, it's a pretty cool place.
I
So
got to
if you
visit.
haven't been to the brewery, go to the
Where
brewery.
where's that at? Like what state?
Pennsylvania. Yeah. You actually have some pretty good reasons to come to Pennsylvania. Half your fan base is probably here.
A little bit. Yep.
Yeah, a couple guys from your network, Jeremy and Mitch Shirk.
Yep. Great guys there. And then we got
Yep.
another guy on the east side of the state. He actually lives in New Jersey, but he's pretty close.
Hmm.
Chris, from the Wing and Tail Boys podcast.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He's over there as well. And um, I think that's it from Pennsylvania. There's a handful of guys from Michigan, and one lives in Kentucky, and I think that's it. I think that's it as far as close to where you're at.
I don't think anybody really needs an intro too much on Dan Johnson. Everybody knows you from Wired to Hunt, your Sportsman's Empire. Man, you've got a giant resume, especially when it comes to podcasting. It's very impressive.
I'll say this. I'm kind of stubborn in certain ways, and
Hmm.
so number one, I don't ever want to give anything up, but at the same time, I don't ever want to let an opportunity go by. And so I'm that guy who's like, okay, well, there's no such thing as too busy. If you're really like, I feel that that's an excuse. Oh, I'm just too busy. I'm too busy. Well, I'm the opposite. I'm like, let's get more busy. Let's add more irons in the fire. And if one fails, it fails. And if it
Hmm.
doesn't, then it doesn't. And so for me, every time like when I started the Nine Finger Chronicles 10 years ago, I had this vision in mind. And then I started the network, and then I started the hunting gear podcast, and then I started the How to Hunt Deer podcast. And then, in that time I was building the network, and it was all about just keep moving forward. And sometimes it's quick and sometimes it's slow. And even sometimes there might even be a little bit of a backward step to
Yeah.
regain your balance, but you never fall over
Right.
type of deal. And so, and now with me adding the other two podcasts, one is already launched, but the other one that I'm getting ready to start up here pretty soon, it's just something different.
Hmm.
I know that there are times when I get burnt out about a specific topic. For example, hunting bucks during the rut,
Yeah.
like that. I've done it for 10 years. I've talked about it for 10 years. I still like talking about it, but I don't like talking about it in June,
Right.
or I don't like talking about it in May.
Right.
And so I got to find other ways to keep my creative juices flowing, so to
Yeah.
speak. And that's why I like to get a little crazy sometimes and do some BS sessions, talk about things that are maybe extremely niche in conversation, and then just I always just shoot from the hip.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was last year you did a series that was just anything but deer hunting.
Yes. Yep.
And it was pretty cool. It was good to listen to because I I think I feel like everything's kind of gone this route where, and I even me and I think a lot of people in the space have done the thing where growing up, I don't know about you, but I did everything. We turkey hunted, we went squirrel hunting, we went rabbit hunting, we went pheasant, we fished and we hiked and we did
Mm-hmm.
all of it. And then as time goes along and then you go to college and you have a little less time, kind of just pick the thing that you like the most and
Mm-hmm.
then it gets really popular. So it had to be archery and it had to be deer hunting and then it had to be deer hunting a bed for a buck that was bigger than X. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And nothing like the hunting beast phase, and nothing against Dan Infalt is a fantastic hunter. I still take a lot of his advice and build it into my strategy and that kind of thing. But I feel like there is a little bit of a swing back to being a more rounded sportsman and just
Yep.
enjoying everything that you possibly can, because it makes everything else more fun and mostly you're better at it.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
feel about that?
I feel that's a good thing. For
Yep.
me, it's all about time and where I decide to spend most of my time. So right now, I'm 100% in family mode
Mm-hmm.
and coach mode. I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting ready. I coach my oldest son after school today. We don't have any practices, so I'm going to take him to the batting cage. They like to go there, and we hit some balls. And
Yeah.
um, but then this is my job slash passion. So I get to do this part of it every day, which allows me to keep my foot in it every
Yeah.
single day. But
Yeah.
then outside of that, it's just one of those things where I I have to pick something.
Right.
And me, I love bow hunting. Period. Bow
Right.
hunting, right? And so I like going out west usually for one trip every year, and then I focus in Iowa the rest of my time. And then maybe on late season, I'll pick up a muzzleloader and maybe do a late season hunt some way, shape, or form. But with all that said, I I would love to do more. Like I used to fish a lot, but now
Mm-hmm.
I hardly fish at all. But now that my son is really involved in fishing, he wants to get more into fishing. He is. Um, I feel like that's the path that I want to go down because I
Mm-hmm.
really want to spend as much time with my family as possible. And if you talk to some of the bigger names in the space, some of these bigger names, you actually sit down and have a conversation with them outside deer hunting strategy,
Yeah.
and you might even be able to get it out of them still where they regret. Like some of these guys were on the road 200, 300 days a year,
Right.
and they missed maybe some major key events with their kids growing up. And
Right.
that you look back at that, and a lot of these guys are regretting that. And I've heard that. I wanted to be those guys when I was younger, but now
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be that anymore. I want to be I want to be a dad and a husband first and foremost because that's where I really feel like my legacy is. Like I only care honestly about how four people think about me: my
Right.
wife and my three kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, man. Anything outside of that is on me. And yes, people have to kind of follow you and like you and agree and relate to you with what you're doing. But if you're not doing it for yourself, then it's almost like you're faking it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Right. I think, and there's so much important about, I mean, when you get married and you make the decision to get married and have kids,
Mhm.
that's your calling in life. And then
Yeah.
beyond that, you need things to balance you, right? You need your Western trip or your hunting or your fishing, because that's part of who you are
Right.
as a person. And it's actually your interests that you can pass on to your kids, like you said, leave a legacy, are impacting a lot more generations than just your immediate one, you
Right.
know. Um, and especially now, like we're able to keep that history a lot better. Like I have some black and white photos of my grandfather with catfish or something, and things that he taught me. But now everything's documented so well. They're gonna like, oh, this is your great great grandfather. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you'll impact a lot more than just that. But if you mess it up, like some of these guys in the industry that say they regret it, if you mess it up now, it won't be there.
Right.
There won't be the legacy. So I think it's
Right.
so important. I've kind of wandered away from, of course, deer hunting's my favorite, bow hunting's my favorite. I have a lot of built-in time off because I'm 12-hour shifts kind of thing.
Yep.
And I think it's cool because I live in an area where I can just walk out my back door and go do the different things that I want to do.
Yeah.
But I spend a little bit less time so obsessed with one thing. And
Hmm.
then it is actually easier for me to pass it on without the obsession. And I feel like when you get so obsessed with it, you make it about just you instead of passing it on to somebody new or passing
Yeah.
it on to your kids or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. I've always been that guy who feels that hunters go through stages in their hunting career. And what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is the like how they evolve, right? When
Yeah.
I kind of started in a weird spot because I lived in Iowa. Okay.
Right.
And so my first deer I ever shot with a bow, I was 26 years old, and I shot it out of a ladder stand in Iowa, and I passed and like 100, maybe somewhere between 100 and 120-inch buck that walked by me
Mm.
first, right? And so I had pictures of that deer on a trail camera, and I showed the farmer, and the farmer was like, "Oh, don't shoot that buck. Don't shoot that buck. There's way bigger deer out here than that buck. Don't shoot
Uh-huh.
that buck." And so I kind of got into it differently. I instantly started chasing big deer.
Uh-huh.
And that was the wrong thing to do, because
Uh-huh.
once big deer showed up, you don't have experience around deer, and then you mess up. You know,
Yeah.
I wish I had documented. I had a camera guy in the tree with me. All of the big giants that I screwed up on. It would blow your mind. Okay, well, this deer caught my scent. Now I'm going to rattle at him after he's
Right.
already busted me. It's like, what are you doing? Or, you're sitting on the complete top of a ridge, and your scent is blowing right down to the bottom of the draw. Of course, you're not going to see anything, right? Or you rattle something in, and it's obviously going to come downwind of you, and then it busts you, or like I had
Yeah.
hundreds of mistakes like that. Uh, but one thing I don't want to say I regret, because I am where I am because of how I got here, is I wish I would have shot more deer. I wish I would have went through a tag filling stage first. Then I think as those opportunities came to me, I wouldn't have messed up on as many.
Yeah.
Right. And so I instantly went into big buck mode. And now which is weird. I'm to a stage where I want to just fill tags, maybe
Yeah.
shoot more does, fill some more tags, and also invest in my kids. Like,
Yeah.
just take my kids hunting, because my son, dude, he's just like, "Dad, September is youth season. Let's go, dude. We got, like, Dad, when are we going? I'm like, buddy, it's not even September yet. We haven't even practiced shooting the gun yet. We got some time that we have to fill."
Yeah.
And he's like, he's vibrating. He's so excited. So we'll see how that goes. I still got to get my daughter on a deer. And I think it's one of those things where I'm to the stage in my hunting career, where I'm just going to start focusing. I'm still going to go take my trips,
Yeah.
right? I'm still going to go out and enjoy myself because my kids have school, but I am
Right.
going to focus a lot more time on trying to take my kids out hunting whenever they're ready and whenever they want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's my daughter. She loves being outside. So it's hard for me to, I guess I'll put it this way. She doesn't really like to go hunting,
Yeah.
and she doesn't really like to go fishing,
Yep.
but she likes that dad does it.
Hmm.
And she likes, so you're talking about shooting more does and investing the time in the kids. I have to find ways to invest the time in my daughter in other ways, because
Hmm.
I'll tell you what she does like. She likes a grilled venison steak, and
Oh yeah.
she likes a fish fry with crappies, and she likes to sit on the boat and read a book,
Hmm.
and she likes to shoot bow with me in the backyard. So maybe the actual hunting will, she's gone with me a few times uh, where it was her idea. I usually try to let it be her idea. Um, but I have to find other ways to make her understand that this is important to me, to our family, and ultimately she loves the lifestyle,
Right.
you know? So, and there's things that she does like she likes to go for a walk with the bird. Like, we got a bird dog last year. She loves to go for a walk with the bird dog, and that kind of thing. But those are the things that I have to spend time investing on, because she has other interests,
Right.
She wants to play volleyball this fall, and she sings and she plays piano, and I did music a long time ago too, so it's easy for me to invest in that stuff too.
Yep.
But I can't just be so hardwired to just hunt big bucks all the time. I mean, you
Yep.
can see all these little bucks behind me. That was my This one at the top right there, that was my first buck. You know what I
Yep.
mean? With
Yep.
a gun. And now I'm to the point where I was to a point where I probably would pass some deer, but now I'm to a point where, like, if it gets me excited when it comes in, I'm shooting it.
Yeah.
You know, a 110-inch buck in Pennsylvania with a bow in my hand, I'm pretty excited about it most of the time, you
Yeah.
know? And it's kinda weird because 5 years ago, I would have been like, it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm ready to wing it now.
Yeah. I give like I very rarely measure any of my deer.
Yeah.
I think I've only measured 2.
Mhm.
My me measured it. One was from peer pressure from my stepdad, and the other one was because it has this giant fork on one side, and
Oh, cool.
so, it's like it's a 2 by 4,
Yeah.
and I measured it just because it was a unique rack, and so, outside of that, man, I never really care about score,
Mhm.
or even age class. I am an experienced guy, and if a big buck comes through the woods and it gets my attention, I'm gonna shoot it. I don't
Yeah.
care. I really don't care too much about what it is. I used to care, uh, back in the day because I was passing deer that I had never shot before
Mhm.
because I was trying to get a specific buck when I hadn't had any reps under my belt at
Right.
big deer. So, like I said, I kind of did it all backwards, and uh, I don't know, man. I'm in a stage now where I'm just happy being out in the woods.
Yeah. I mean, everything there's a little bit of fun anytime you get to do anything. Like I said, one of my daughter's favorite I'm excited to get, the boat's getting ready to get out, school year's almost over, and she
Mhm.
loves to just sit on the boat and read a book while I'm fishing. You know,
Yep.
she gets a kick out of it, especially if I break a few off. She she likes that. But what since we're talking some nostalgic moments, w- what did you really cut your teeth on, and where did you get your start in the outdoors? Was there a specific moment where you that you can remember?
Well, I mean, I grew up in I shouldn't say in the outdoors, but outside. I was an
Yeah.
outside kid. The first I don't even know how many years it was. It would have been my first 7 to 8 years of my life.
Uh-huh.
I was I grew up on a farm. My parents had jobs. We lived in town, but
Yeah.
my parents had jobs, and my grandparents were my babysitters. And so I was just outside
Hmm.
all the time. And so a lot of fish, like we did fishing. So
Yeah.
a lot of the outdoors revolved around fishing, playing on a farm. You know, I was that no shoes kid
Yeah.
who would run around outside, no shirt
Yeah.
on, no shoes, me and my brother. And then really there was my I had 2 uncles, one specifically who, would take me out, just kinda, like, be a sidekick a couple times with like, on a pheasant hunt, and first hunt I officially ever went on was a pheasant hunt with my uncle, and I shot a pheasant. Actually, the tail of that pheasant back in '92 or something like that
Oh,
was
cool.
right in front of me, so that's pretty cool memory to have.
Yeah.
Um I went on my and then fishing and then, trapping. I would go trapping with him, like, check traps, but then I
Yeah.
one of my favorite memories is my uncle was in college, so he set traps, then he went back to college, and then he made my uncle made my grandma check the traps. And so I can remember my grandma in like hip waders going
Yeah.
into these farm cricks and checking traps and resetting them. And then I was the baseball bat kid. So if there's anything in the trap that was still alive, I was
Take them out.
I was the kid who would beat their heads in, right? So so there was that. I can remember playing in the same creek, seining minnows, you know, trapping muskrats,
Oh,
coons,
yeah.
things like that. Um, just that was kind of the birth of all of this. And then as that evolved, I think I got my first bow and arrow when I was 13ish,
Yeah.
something
Same.
like that. And started hunting back then, but nothing serious because I
Mhm.
started, you know, you start to get into this age where I was heavy in sports, I was heavy in the social aspect of school,
Mhm.
student council, um, and I would still go out hunting every once in a while with my bow, but nothing serious. I can remember one of the first bow hunts I ever went on. my stepdad at the time dropped me off in the middle of this field, and he goes, walk into that woods. And so I climbed in a tree, and here comes this button buck and two does. And I go to draw back on this button buck, and I slip out of the tree. I'm sitting in a tree. There's no stand or saddle or anything,
Yeah.
right? And so I let go as I'm rolling forward, and I scrape the fur off of this buck's belly. I had all this white fur, and I thought that was so cool that I got so close to
Yeah.
shooting a deer. And then from there, it just kind of continued. It went away for a while when I was in college, because I did the college thing. And then even
Yeah.
after that, for a little while, I moved away, got a job, did a little turkey hunting, no deer hunting, but then moved back to Iowa in 2005 or six. And then from there, it was on.
Yeah. I love stories like that, man. To hear where somebody started is a really cool thing.
Yep.
Whether it's, you know, somebody that's new to hunting or old, there's always like some kind of sometimes it's a specific moment that hooked somebody, but a
Yeah.
lot of times like I grew up like you, man. I didn't grow up on a farm, but my best friends that lived down the street were farmers. They're still my family friends, and I hunt in their farm. Uh I'll just do a little bit of bow hunting and some gun hunting there now, but
Right.
um I hunted on their farm a lot growing up, and you know, we would drive the track. We couldn't drive yet because we were too young. You
Hmm.
can in PA you can hunt without an adult when you're like 14. So we would hop in the John Deere tractor and drive down the road to the next farm, and you know we'd film with the little 9mm cameras and stuff. But I remember just doing the same thing you did, building forts in the backyard,
Hmm.
barefoot, running around, damming creeks up,
Oh
and
yeah.
uh, all that kind of stuff. And it's always something interesting because somebody will tell you like, "Oh, I wasn't really that into it, and then my uncle took me out and I shot a squirrel, and it took me 18 shots with a 22 or something," and they remember that specific moment or whatever it was. Where if it's ingrained, it's just something some people like you and I just always did. I can't remember a time being without it, and I even in pictures,
Yeah.
playing in creeks when I'm two with crayfish, or catching a bluegill when I'm, three, five, 4 or 5 or something, that kind of stuff. It's so cool to get to hear all that kind of stuff because it's just it's part of the legacy that you're talking about.
Maybe you've heard this one before, but I don't know if your audience has heard it.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard me tell the story about hunting over a bird feeder?
No.
Okay. So I got this BB gun for Christmas, I believe.
Hmm.
And so me and my brother went into my grandpa's barn, and we pulled all these bales of hay, put it on a pull behind wagon, and
Yeah.
set up a ground blind around one of my grandma's bird feeders. Okay. Dude, we smoked cardinals, blue jays. I don't know if I could get in trouble for saying this, but I was like 9 at the time,
Yeah.
9 years old. All these songbirds just boom, just pop them, and they'd fall down.
Yeah.
And so my grandpa pulls in from after doing some farming, and he sees us, and he's like, "Hey guys, what are you doing? What the hell is going on?" He sees these stack of dead birds, right? And he's like, "Your grandma is going." It's my grandma's favorite thing. She always wore these handmade knitted sweatshirts with songbirds, cardinals, and blue jays, and finches on them because she loved watching the birds.
Yeah.
And so my grandpa, it's the only time I've really seen him mad.
Yeah.
And he at his grandkids, and he took me and my brother. He's like, "You can kill as many pigeons." He took us to the barn. He goes, "You can kill as many pigeons and sparrows as you want, but do not ever shoot any more songbirds out of this feeder over here." Right? I'm like, I'm hunting, right? I'm using a quote unquote food plot,
Yeah.
for these birds, and I thought I was doing a good thing, or something for fun. He got
Yeah.
angry, and then we switched to killing sparrows and pigeons in his horse barn.
Yeah, we always used to we used to do the BB gun thing too, but My dad, he's a rule follower, so he always would tell us the right thing to do. This is the only bird, and he'd show us pictures. These are the only kind you can shoot with this if you're gonna, respond. So we would take out BB guns and see how far we could shoot a bird with how little pumps in the BB gun.
Oh, and the cool thing about those BB guns is you could see the arch of the BB.
Yeah, yeah. So you'd be like, all right, you get 3 shots.
Yeah.
How many pumps does it take? But actually, my brother told me this story and I forgot about it. He told me this 2 weeks ago. We had a neighbor who was very against hunting, and they're vegetarian type people or whatever, or where we used to live. And my brother was friends with the kid that lived in the house, and that kid was just ADD on steroids.
Yep.
There were all these pigeons in the barn, and my brother's like, "Oh, it'd be cool if your dad would let us shoot the pigeons in the barn." Well, that was a dead no.
Yeah.
So the kid's like, "I'll go ask him." He comes running back out of the house. Obviously, didn't ask his dad. He's like, "He said yeah." So my brother and this kid go into this barn, and they shoot 10 or 12 pigeons out of the out of the rafters.
Yep.
And this kid's dad walks around the barns. Uh, Nathaniel, were you shooting pigeons in the barn? No. And my brother is like, he said yes, right? And he's like, no, I didn't ask him.
Oh boy. So he with a 22?
No, with BB gun.
Oh, okay. All right. Because
Yeah.
I just envisioned putting all these holes in a barn roof.
Oh man, the barn roof is already full of holes. There were bats in there. Oh, it was full of all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah.
They were the people. They had like 19 house cats and about 50 goats that never really lived in their yard.
Yep.
You'd have a goat charging your car when you were driving down the street and stuff. So
Love it.
yeah, good stories, man. But I have some things jotted down here. But do you think there's things? This is only coming up because I was talking to a friend this morning before I got on with you. Do you think there's a lot of things that are trying to, and I don't want to be ultra negative here, but things that are really trying to sabotage the legacy
Of hunting?
Yeah.
Well, it's money in antler size.
So things like changes. Like I am not opposed to things that are illegal. One thing that really frustrates me, and this is probably going to make a lot of people laugh, is e-bikes. E-bikes frustrate me. And e-bikes frustrate me because they're not legal, but everybody uses them here.
Yeah.
Right. And crossbows are legal. I don't have a problem with people learning, I think that kids have so many distractions and so many things they can use. Crossbows are a great thing for kids. If it's what gets your kid into it because they can't pull a bow back yet or something, use a crossbow. There are people that are adamantly against crossbows. There's the cell camera debate, and the biggest thing that's in fishing news is using live scope. And I worry sometimes that these things are kind of taking a little bit away, but then I think of people that came before us where they're like, oh, a compound bow is going to ruin hunting, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your take on some of it?
I am a firm believer, and this isn't just like, this is just a belief system of mine. Obviously, rule number one, first and foremost, if there is a rule and regulation that states that you should not do something, then you should not do that thing, whatever that thing is. But if there's a rule and regulation that says you can do this thing, well, go do it, man.
Yeah.
Do it. I don't give a shit. I don't care what anybody else does. And I think that's part of the overwhelming problem, is that we have too many people who care and are trying to put input into what others are doing. If you don't like a certain rule and regulation, here's how this works. We live in a democracy. Rally you and a lot of people to get behind it and be active in the rules and regulation process, and try to get a majority of people to vote something down or vote something up. Right. And so that's how this works. Right. I mean, that's democracy. I mean, we see it all of the time. We just had the government try to sell off, hundreds of thousand. yeah, 100 over, whatever the number was of public land, the troops were rallied and we've stopped that from happening. So
Right.
that could happen on any level in any state or any region, county of the United States, right? And so if you and a group of people believe strongly in something, well, then you should voice it. Um, my biggest pet peeve in life in general is people who play victim
Mhm.
and people who bitch but don't do anything.
Right.
Oh my God, this sucks. I hate this. And
Yeah.
then they don't do shit about it. They're just bitchers.
Right.
Okay. And so tough shit, man. That's the world we live in, right? You got to take action if you want something changed. But on top of that, right, like it's just number one, hunting is now becoming easier. It's trail cameras have completely changed the game now,
Yeah.
not only from when they were D batteries hanging the size of a VCR on a tree, trying to get it on film.
Yeah.
That changed the game, man. The
Mhm.
second people knew bigger antler deer were out there, that is when people started hunting bigger antler deer. That's when friends started breaking up. That's when deer camps started to dissolve, all because of antler size. Now we have an entire industry built around big antlers,
Right.
and it's, it will. I don't want to say it might, but it will eventually become a sport where people have to pay money to enjoy it. Like
Right.
every other country. I just had a conversation with uh, a gentleman from the Dallas Safari Club.
Mm.
This on the Nine Finger Chronicles that's going to launch on Friday, and I asked him the question, like, North America is pretty, United States, maybe even Canada, they're blessed with a guy being able to step out his door, go buy a hunting license, and then go somewhere to hunt. You can't do
Right.
that in Europe or Africa or any other country in the world,
Right.
right? And so there's something really special about what we have. And I feel as if the focus is on the antlers, then what happens is the money follows that. And then you got people buying up more ground, kicking off just like average Joes. And then now what I call, it's a number that I don't know if I was the guy who made it up, but it's one that I use. And that's called the acres per hunter
Mhm.
number. And so what we have is the acres per number or per hunter number is going up, meaning there's this giant skew that's starting to rip where there's one hunter taking up more land on one end of the spectrum. And then on the other end of the spectrum, some of these hunters don't have anywhere to go. So now they're on the other end of the spectrum, you have very few acres per hunter where they have to go find new places to hunt or they quit hunting. And those
Right.
are both two really, those things suck because I've lost a ton of farms throughout my life to non-residents or to guys who want to manage deer, and they kick out all these people. Some people find new places to hunt, some people don't. And th- with me saying this is also a bit hypocritical because I also believe that you should be able to do that if you want. You want to
Right.
buy 1,000 acres and only have one person hunt it and manage for giant deer, then you should be able, as an American, you should be able to do that. But
Right.
what it will eventually do is, I think like the culture has changed so much that I don't know if there's a way to come back for it. And you mentioned it earlier. I see maybe the culture starting to shift a little bit. It's shifting not by choice.
Mhm.
It's shifting because it has to. And that's
Right.
only half of the population of hunters. Meanwhile, the other group of people, the quote unquote one percenters who are property owners, land managers, have the ability to, like, I'm not saying uh, people who plant food plots are one percenters, but what I'm getting at is there's a big rift in between these two groups.
Right.
And so it's I don't see, as long as there's money and land and big bucks on the landscape, I don't see the big buck culture ever changing.
Right.
And it's gonna eventually, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say eventually. I'm just gonna say it's not ever gonna go back to a place where you can, like in Iowa, 25 years ago, I could have knocked on a door and got a yes on 90% of the farms that I knocks. I'm a bow hunter. Oh, you're a bow hunter? Okay, yeah, we'll go on in.
Right.
Now I go to the same farms and it's nope, we're leased. Nope, we're outfitted. Nope, I own this and I hunt,
Right.
right? And so it's just a lot of change has happened.
Yeah, and I think that's like you said, it's one of the biggest thing to rally the troops because
Mhm.
I also agree. I think somebody should be able to purchase land and do what they want with it. We live in America,
Yep.
but there is only so much land to go around, and if we end up selling off public land, eventually that'll be gone too.
Right.
So I think the public spaces that we have are important to protect because everything else can be made into puzzle pieces, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Um, the majority of the United States is private land, I would assume. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So there's plenty to go around there. I think the one thing that can be hard about things like that is once you make something legal, it's hard and then kind of touchy to go back. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
for example, uh, well, I guess cell cams is a big topic. It's probably easy to go back and forth on that because it's a small item.
Hmm.
But if you're talking about firearms or something like that, whether or not you can hunt with a semi-automatic rifle for deer or something like that, people are like, well, you shouldn't be able to do that. And then if you try to take that away and you won that, you might end up hurting things in the long game because I've heard it said, oh, well, if you give them that back, if you take that away, they're going to want to just take this away until everything's gone. I
Yep.
don't know if I agree with that for everything. I think you have to look at it on scale.
100%. It has to be sliding because the deer herd or whatever piece of wildlife you're trying to manage is affected by more than just one thing, right?
Right.
So the mule deer situation out west, the mule deer herd is not good compared to what it has been because of drought. Now that has nothing to do with hunters. Okay.
Right.
So there has to be some type of sliding scale in order to properly manage a specific species of wildlife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it's ignorant to just go, well, you're taking away my rights because this and that. Well, we're not taking away your rights to to do something. We feel this is the best possible way to manage the herd, whether
Right.
that's tag reduction, whether that's changing season dates, whether that is changing weapons used, things like that. The thing that I think people forget is that the most important part of all of this is a well-structured deer herd,
Yeah.
right? Because what you have is a scenario, let's say Michigan, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these people complaining that there's no big bucks, but everybody shoots small bucks. All
Right.
right, that's the culture there. And so then what happened was in certain, I think there was 13 counties in Michigan, they said, guess what? We're going to implement an antler point restriction.
Mm-hmm.
People threw a fit
Right.
because of that. But then years later, now they're starting to see bigger bucks on the property and people are okay with that.
Yeah.
Now, the other parts of Michigan, there's groups of people who are like, hey, we want an antler point restriction too. But the majority will bitch and complain about that.
Right.
And so sometimes it takes a band-aid rip to and people getting really pissed because they don't understand, or maybe the DNR or some group doesn't do a good enough job of explaining what it is they're trying to accomplish with a
Right.
specific rule and regulation change. Um, and so that's where it becomes difficult, especially in a state like Iowa, where I feel it would be hard to manage the deer herd in Iowa because a majority of Iowa is private land. So a landowner can shoot as many or as little deer as they like on their land. They have to abide by how many tags that they can get.
Mm-hmm.
But there's certain parts of the county that I live in where I run out of doe tags every single year. I can only buy one doe tag
Yeah.
in my county that I live in.
Oh wow.
Now, meanwhile, you have farms out here that are managing for, you know, let's say bigger antler deer or trying to manage their farms that can't kill enough deer
Mm-hmm.
because there's not enough tags to go around.
Right.
right? So the difficult part becomes, how do you balance the deer herd when there's not enough deer tags? And how do you balance the deer herd when um, on private, when people don't have to listen to what the government tells them as far as how many deer to shoot or not shoot?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think that's one thing Pennsylvania, just on a side note, I think that's one thing Pennsylvania does well. And like you said, people want to complain about it right away. Well,
yeah,
you understand what's happening in the area you hunt, but you don't look at the area as a whole.
right.
And if you don't do that, how do you really understand it?
Yep.
So we have these deer management assistance programs, DMAP tags. So they're above and beyond the allotment of tags that you can buy, but they cut out certain areas of certain units that have a higher
Yeah.
deer population. So people on private can buy more tags and that kind of thing.
Yep.
But then people want to get all up in arms about it. Well, dude, those tags aren't for you on the public land. Of course, you can use it there, but they're really for the farmers that are around that land most
Hmm.
of the time that have 400 deer coming out into their field at night, you know?
Yep.
And, but yeah, I think everything does have to happen on a sliding scale, especially, I think some things take care of themselves, right? I don't know what the issue with people using live scope. I think Bassmasters is actually having a decrease in viewers, and maybe it could be related to the fact that they can use it because it's not as fun to watch anymore. You know, people aren't like, oh, um, you know, the bass are relating to wood today, so you know we're kind of using these kind of baits and we're chasing them this way, and they're in transition for all that. The knowledge of the actual thing that they're hunting goes away because they're just zipping around a lake, staring at a screen, looking for a fish suspended in 100 feet of water or something. It's not as interesting. It can be fun and exciting, you know, when they
Yeah.
catch a big old bat, you know, big old fish or whatever. And but like you said, it's all related to the money aspect.
Yep.
So
Well, and the fact that human beings, like all animals, want to take the path of least resistance to
right,
accomplish whatever it is that they've set out to do. And so, of course, cell cams are popular.
right,
It makes hunting easier. Of
right,
course, crossbows are more popular, and that in certain states, crossbows now have outweighed have more archery kills than compound bows and other forms of archery do,
right,
because it's easier.
right.
And if you offer an easier solution to a problem, people are going to take it.
Yeah.
Even guys who have been bow hunting for 30 years, they see a crossbow in front of them and they're just like, well, I'm going to
That,
do it.
that big one that I couldn't shoot last week because it was
Yep.
10 yards too far.
Yep.
Could have done it with that, you know.
Yep.
I, and like I said, I think there's a, you know, we give out, Pennsylvania gives out handicap tags to guys that have a handicap permit and they
Mhm.
can drive further into the public land. Or, you know, there's things like I don't really have a problem if a guy that can't pull a bow because he's got a shoulder injury or whatever
Mhm.
it is, no matter their age. I don't have problems with that, and I don't have because again, like that's something that's legal.
Yep.
I do have problems with people trying to take advantage of the system. Like I said, I hate e-bikes. If I was allowed to and it was legal, I probably still wouldn't use one, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't get upset about. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
And you're right. If you don't do anything about it, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
So if I'm seeing people riding e-bikes around that are hunting, I'm like, hey, it's not legal. Do you know that?
Yep.
Yes, I do. Well, I? Everybody's morals are different too. I would have a problem riding an e-bike because if I killed something and I used an e-bike to go do it, it would taint that for me. You know,
Yeah. Is
it
it
would taint
because
that kill.
e-bikes are illegal on where you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Well, that's a valid reason.
right.
People break the rules.
Yeah,
Now, where I go hunting, for example, private in Iowa,
yeah,
some of the private land I hunt, I ride an e-bike to get closer, so that when the deer do see me, they're not as afraid as
yeah,
if I'm walking. Okay.
right. You
So
can
it's
ride
just
them on private here. They're
exactly.
legal on private land.
Now, there's also certain parts of other states where, if you have to, I take advantage of a rule and regulation where, full disclosure, I use an e-bike on public land in certain states
Uh,
because an e-bike over a certain wattage is illegal,
right.
right? And the So I can, and it has to be foot activated. So you have to actively be pedaling. So
Right.
if I disconnect my throttle
Right.
and it's under a certain wattage, then it becomes legal to use on public land.
Right.
All right. So I definitely have done that. Now, I take all the right steps because I don't want to get in trouble.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of people out there who don't, right? I mean, I go to public land in certain states and there's guys driving four wheelers on uh, like four wheelers or driving trucks where
Yeah.
you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is what it is. You're going to have people like that.
Yeah.
But again, it really comes down to, are you breaking the law? Yes or no? And if it's yes, then you shouldn't do it, man. Period.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is there are things that come out like the e-bikes. I'm all for e-bikes, but they're not legal here.
Yep.
They're legal in some places. You can ride them on a state forest, and like you said, it has to be below like 750 watts, and it has
Mhm.
to be strictly a pedal assist or whatever.
Yep.
In those places, knock yourself out. Do it. It's the parts that take advantage of the system that really irk me when it comes to this stuff, you know.
Yep.
Um, and like I said, I guess I'm different than everybody, but man, it really, when I see somebody ride an e-bike in and they're bringing a big buck out on an e-bike, how's that thing mean anything to you now? You just did
Mhm.
it the wrong way. You know what I
Right.
mean? It kind of, for me, if I killed something and I did something illegal to make it easier for myself, it's completely would ruin the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing about, I don't understand why people poach.
Right.
All right. So you used a gun during archery season, or you baited when you shouldn't have been
Just
baiting,
shine it at night or something,
shining at
whatever.
night. Yeah. Some stuff like that. And then you go get it. You don't get busted. You take it to the taxidermist. You got the tag for it. And then it sits on your wall. What if someone asks you a question about that? You're lying for the
Yeah,
rest of your life about
exactly.
that.
Right.
You're lying for the rest of your life about something, and then people are going to be like, "Oh man, you shot that in November with a bow?" Yeah, I sure did. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Uh, Scumbag,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
scumbag.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, I didn't know them growing up, but I knew people that poached uh, because they didn't have any money, and
Yeah,
that's a sad thing to see. You know, that shouldn't happen because there are plenty of doe tags, man. If you have somebody that's poaching because they didn't have money, send them a doe or two. You know,
yeah,
like, but those are the kind of people they poach, and they don't really care what they're just shooting whatever's out. You know,
yep,
that's a
yep.
sad thing to see, especially because we have all these good programs. Um, if you're not interested in eating your deer, there's plenty of ways to get rid of it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that just don't care about the natural resource,
Yeah,
right? They don't care what the population is. They don't
right.
care about whether there's a threat against it, or they're just going to go out, they're going to do themselves. And if for some reason there's no deer left in their area, then they'll go do something different.
Yeah,
Right? They did no majority of people, I firmly believe, they care a little bit, but they don't care enough to put any effort into making any change or doing the right thing.
yeah. I think the other thing too is the social media aspect is probably one of the biggest drivers in all this.
Yeah.
You know, there's a, you know, I guess I shouldn't get too specific, but there is a group of fellas here that don't always do things the right way, and it's because they want to post a YouTube video,
Yeah.
you know, and show everybody how good they are, you know, whatever. And initially, it starts out pretty innocent. It's like, oh, I wanted to show my dad or my friends what I like to do or whatever, and then it
Mhm.
it it doesn't stay that way because you
Right.
get you get all that drive from the likes and the comments and all that stuff too. I like to post stuff on social media, but I don't do it because I want the attention. I do it because I want to share things and help people grow.
Yep.
And I always have to remind myself that, you know, because when it does get exciting when you do everything right and you catch a giant fish or shoot a huge buck or your first elk or whatever it is to get the attention from it, but it's not really about that. Nobody remembers what you did, especially people that don't hunt and fish see that and they're like, "Oh, that's really cool," and they ask you some questions about it, and then they forget about it in 2 days.
Right.
You know, there's no way they're remembering that. um,
Right.
that big buck you shot. Um, so you have this. I think we've kind of been going down the road, but you have this new project. You have two new projects coming up, yeah?
Well, one's already out, and then another one we are in the process of creating content for its launch. Yes.
Yeah. Um, are you want to talk a little bit about them or not?
I
You
can.
kind
I
of,
can.
yeah,
No,
do it.
I mean, it's eventually. I mean, it's public. I
Yeah,
mean,
I want to hear it.
so so
I
the di-
before
go,
you say this,
okay.
I do want to say that I listened to you when you started doing stuff with Mark.
Hmm.
So it's cool to see all this growth and to see where you're coming and kind of, full circle. I always thought you were a good guy, but then you wanted to shoot a big specific buck, and you've grown into this awesome person who just wants to make the people around you better. And
Hmm.
it's not because you want them to like you. That's a really cool thing to me.
Yeah,
It's because you genuinely care about it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Um, yeah. So when it comes to these new projects, right? First, I've been doing the deer hunting podcast stuff and for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Okay. So 10 years worth of podcasting. The Nine Finger Chronicles alone has close to 970 episodes. The Hunting Gear podcast has uh, 200 some episodes. I believe the How to Hunt Deer we're over 100 some there. So a cumulative. I've done. Oh, and the Iowa podcast that I used to do, I don't do anymore, just
Hmm.
from a time standpoint. The We're talking over 1,000 episodes that I've launched across all my platforms. Uh, and then all the business that you do um, throughout the year, talking about deer hunting, hunting gear, industry stuff, public lands, whatever the topic is.
Hmm.
And I don't want to say like I felt like I was getting a little burnt out. So one thing that I wanted to do is I needed a creative release for something different. Like I feel like if I do something different, then I can continue to go back to enjoying what has got me here in the first place.
Right.
So there's a guy out there. His name's Dan Matthews, and I've gotten to know him. His podcast, the Nomadic Outdoorsman podcast, is on the Sportsman's Empire Network.
Yep.
An excellent podcast. Excellent podcast. He's a great host. And I got this idea for a podcast. Let me run it by you. And the name of the podcast is called 2Ds, One Podcast, play on words.
Yeah.
Okay. And it has literally nothing to do with hunting or the outdoors other than the both hosts are named Dan. We're both outdoorsmen, and we're both dads. And it's nonsense. It is not kid friendly. It was created almost as a therapy session, so to speak, where
Yeah.
I could just sit around a guy and literally just BS with him for as little or as long as we had that day.
Right.
And so, I mean, we talk about everything. We talk about movies. We talk about, crazy stories from when we were kids. It's straight nonsense, but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of laughing out of it. We tell crazy stories, and that's the one that's already out. I think we're like 8 episodes deep or something like that.
Oh,
And
great.
so really that's a creative release. The next one that I'm taking a little more serious is um I had a buddy, I had my son, one of my youngest son's best friend, his dad is a therapist, a
Okay.
legit counselor therapist.
Yeah.
And I have admitted this to just about everybody. I feel like when you hit my age, I'm 45, and I'm hitting this midlife crisis period in
Yeah.
my life where I come from a background of men that swallowed all of their emotions. And it came out as anger
Hmm.
when it finally boiled over, right? And so, or just like like it's like trying to, like the idea of talking to someone to solve your problems was like only only sissies did that, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? And so I'm starting this podcast called Man Therapy, where me and this other guy, we just sit around and we talk about problems men have throughout all ages of their life. And that includes, being single, to kids, to wife problems, to dating issues, to how to handle some of these issues. I believe one of our first episodes, like I said, it's not out yet. It will be out,
Uh-huh.
but a lot of times people in this world, they look at others as a source of all of their problems. So they're looking to blame people when you might need to look internally first to see if there is a problem with you that might make somebody else's life easier. Therefore, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not giving you. And so I bring the the average guy vibe, and he brings the professional. He's an average dude too. He's a great guy, hilarious, and he brings the professional side of things.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, this pisses me off, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, well, actually, maybe we should try something like this. Or if a person is struggling with this aspect, then maybe let's try this, or ask questions that might get answers, and communicate and all this kind of stuff. So that's going to be out, I believe, later this month or in June at some point, and
Very
you'll
cool.
see it on the Nine Finger Chronicles side of things. But it's just two avenues outside of what I'm already doing to basically talk about what is going on in my real life.
Yeah.
Not just like deer hunting 24/7, because that's only a very small part of what we as men do throughout the course of our life. Like husband, father, that's 99% of what we do, man.
Yeah. I think, dude, I love this because it's everybody wants to, well, not everybody wants to have something that's so relatable when it comes to the hunting and fishing. They just want to
Mhm.
hear big buck on highlight reel.
Yep.
And I think it's cool because the guys who really do care about it and that can make a difference in the world, they see the highlight reel and they're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, maybe I'm not doing enough to kill a big buck." And then they start losing focus on other things that are important.
Yep.
And I think that's, dude, I think that's so cool. Plus, you're kind of using your podcast as medical insurance to get a therapist, you know. I love it.
Fact,
I love
fact,
that.
fact.
That's very, very cool. Um, but what do you I'm gonna have to cut this part out because now I lost my train of thought. Um, as a dad, what's your biggest thing that you want to pass along, especially with this type of podcast that you're starting? Like this is your son, your daughter seeing this. You had two boys, right?
Yep, 2
Yeah.
boys. Yep.
Your boys and your little girl are gonna see that you wanted to make a difference in your own life. So what's something that you really want to pass on through a podcast like this?
Yeah, well, my goal every day when I wake up is to be understanding, to be empathetic, but also to be very stern and realistic in how I raise my kids,
Yeah.
okay? So, um, I wanna know why they're acting the way that they do, and try to ask them questions to try to get into. I don't wanna be the hammer every time where
Yeah.
it's like, "Stop it, boom." I don't wanna be like, there's a time and a place for that, trust me,
Right.
there is,
Yeah.
but in order to fix a problem, and this is just human nature with humans in general, right? Instead of coming at someone with negative energy and all this bullshit, what you
Yeah.
should do is you should be empathetic. Ask them, "Hey, man, what's wrong? Why are you acting this way?" "Well, I'm acting this way." And you start asking these questions to get the answer out of somebody, and it could be a very easy fix. "Well, the reason I'm acting like this is because my brother did this." "Okay, hey, get over here. Why are you acting like this?" "Well, she did this." I'm like, "Okay, well, if you got to be able to get along. And maybe if you stop doing this, he'll stop doing this. Should we try that?" Right? That type of um, uh, empathy. And then if that doesn't work, then that's when you bring the hammer down,
Right.
right? So at the end of the day, I want to teach my kids patience and empathy, but I also want my kids to be able to defend themselves strongly against anybody who is out there trying to maybe go against them, right? But they
Right.
have to be smart about it. I don't want people to um, react in a way that is out of control. That's one thing that I guess the word is control,
Mhm.
right? Or how you act under pressure. In order to know how to act under pressure, you have to be under pressure at some
Mhm.
point. And so that's one thing I'm really trying to teach my kids is put enough pressure on them so that they can control their reactions on how they react to certain situations. And then that will teach them that when they get older and that pressure continues to come, then they will know how to hopefully properly handle those types of situations.
Yeah. I think some there I think there's a swing back to stoicism
Mhm.
when it comes to like psychological things.
Yep.
I think it's somewhere in the middle, because a stoic person wouldn't always be empathetic. It would just
Hmm.
be the hammer,
Yeah.
and working in the medical field, especially now, everybody has anxiety, depression, and mania on their chart. You know what
Yep.
I mean? Well, everybody.
Yep.
Everybody's on some kind of medicine for nerves or whatever because
Hmm.
they can't handle certain things because it's everything. Probably my generation was all like, "Oh, tell me about your feelings." Like,
Hmm.
well, feelings are important to an extent, but then like you said, if you can't handle it under pressure, pressure is going to happen inevitably in life at some point in time.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I think there is somewhere in between that's important. I think it's really cool that you're doing this kind of stuff, dude. I'm really excited to hear some of it.
And then the other thing, I just want to finish that thought is
Yeah.
love.
Mm-hmm.
Like if two dudes start talking about what they love, it's like, oh, I love this beer or I love deer hunting. Okay, well, guess what? I love my children.
Right.
I love my son. Like, I feel like um, in a scenario where there is pressure, if you don't lead with love, then people will put up their defenses,
Yeah.
love and kindness and positive energy, and then you're done. You may not even get another chance with a certain individual. And so, if you come from a place of love and understanding and setting proper expectations in any relationship, I really do feel that's just a gateway to solving problems and to making your life happier and not comparing yourself to other people. It's
Right.
just, and that's one thing that kids have a hard time with is so and so has a phone. Why don't I have a phone? And then I have to go through explaining why, like, I don't allow my kids to be on social media or why my son doesn't have a phone and all his friends do.
Right.
Right. And so, um, I it's just you got to come from a place of understanding and compassion and empathy and all the good words. But then when that expires, then there is also a time where you drop a hard hammer
Right.
and you fix that problem.
Right. And I think that is an excellent way to for your kids to be able to handle the pressure like that too.
Exactly.
Dude, I love this conversation. It's a good conversation.
I appreciate it.
Um, I do want to be sensitive to your time. We're already on for an hour and 10
Mhm.
minutes here, but I want to hear just one more story from Dan. What was your top 2024 hunting, fishing, whatever it is moment
Um,
in the outdoors?
yeah. So I'm going to skip all the like taking my 20 spring 2024. My daughter shot a couple turkeys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whole story behind that. That was one of the greatest moments of my life, right? But that's a kid story. Okay,
Yeah.
that was amazing. Taking my daughter out for her first time shotgun hunting during youth season. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, Loved every moment of that.
Yeah.
Going fishing with my son and one of his friends at his friend's grandpa's pond. Just
Mm-hmm.
loved every moment of that. But the story that's, I guess, would be more selfishly
Yeah,
would be this year, after about 6 years of chasing, I finally connected on a mule deer buck in South Dakota,
I saw that.
and it was one of the so we're me and another guy, we walk up to this glassing point, and we spend a large amount of the day there.
Mhm.
Okay. And sun's starting to go down, and getting we're not seeing any mule deer, and we're like, all right, well, let's get back to the truck. This is day 4 maybe of the trip, I think
Yeah,
3 or 4. And we're walking back to the truck, and I look behind me, and I'm like, hey, there's some mule deer way over there. And I was like, well, I don't know if we're gonna have time. And he's like, it was pretty cool. He's just like, if you don't go after these deer, I'm gonna go after this deer. And so um he was after kind of he had located a big one, and he was really trying to get on this big one. And I
mhm,
had never shot one before, so I'm trying to get on any deer. And
mhm,
so I'm like, okay, let's screw it, let's go. Drop my pack, and then went after this group of bucks. And long story short, I ended up getting behind this knob, curling around as they were kind of feeding up out of the bottom into some of this food. And I came around, and I could see it hit when he would put his head up, I could only see the tips of his antlers. So
yeah,
I knew I was close. And it was one of those scenarios where it's real crunchy and dry. And so I was like, range, real close range. And so finally I got him at 33 yards, drew back, stood up, shot him, and he rolled down the hill. And I was just completely jacked
I
about
bet, man.
that scenario. It wasn't a huge buck from a weight standpoint. I mean, I was going to shoot this buck, the first one out of this group that came by, but
Yeah,
it was a 4x4, and I ended up like, I had so much adrenaline throughout the course of me cutting him up and packing him out. That deer could have weighed 1,000 pounds, and
yeah,
I would have just hopped over the hills to my truck. I
yeah,
was so jacked. And of course I had another guy with me who helped me carry, um, that weight too.
yeah,
But it was just, I was high off life at
yeah.
that point.
For days, I'm sure.
Oh, dude, I still go downstairs when I'm hanging out with my kids. I have a little man cave set up down there where
Yeah,
I have all my deer heads,
yeah,
and I got this mule deer Euro mount, because last year I shot my first mule deer, and then I went to Kansas and shot a buck. So I got these 2 mounts hanging there with another South Dakota buck that I shot several years ago,
yeah,
and whitetail though. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, I stare at it. I just stare at it, and I relive all of the memories and the moments. And I'm even still jacked about talking about it right now.
yeah. I can tell.
I love the West. I love the Midwest. I love the outdoors in general. It's just, feed me. That's what I want.
Yeah,
Feed me. If you're ever having a bad day, go outside.
yeah,
If you're lost in life and you don't know what direction to go out, at least go outside, go on a hike, pick
yep,
up a bow, pick up a
yep,
gun, go shoot some of those things.
yep,
And then I swear to God, man, you spend enough time outside, your problems will go away.
yeah. I fully agree, man. Fred Bear had a lot of good quotes for that, and I agree with most of them.
Yep. Yep.
It's such a good place to be, and you're right. There's so much unique to everything, and that
Yep.
people laugh at me, but I won't lie. I love hunting Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
It's a pretty state, man. There's a lot of stuff. We have a lot of opportunity, and people don't. I think people are starting to, but people haven't always taken advantage of the public spaces that we have because we have 4 million acres of public land in PA.
Yeah.
And it's the
That's
same
awesome.
for the West. Everything has its own unique thing,
Yep.
and every story like the one you just told has something unique to it. And even if it's the one that got away,
Yep.
um, it's just so cool that we can all share something like this and get to talk about it like we get to talk about it.
100%.
But dude, I appreciate you coming on. We've talked about some of your avenues, but where do you want people to find you the most?
I think the best thing to do is go to sportsmansempire.com, Sportsme nsempire.com. And that's where you're going to find all of the podcasts that I've mentioned today.
Yep.
But you're also going to find all of the other, like the Pennsylvania Woodsman, the Whitetail Landscapes podcast.
Yep.
A lot of these are East Coast type, the Mid Atlantic Outdoorsman.
Yeah.
Jeremy's Antler Up podcast. I mean, we got a ton of really, really good. I wish I could sit here and name all of them if I had the time to do it, but I'll tell you this right now: it is one of those things where, um, and maybe I'm just being biased, but I would put the content that we put out on the Sportsman's Empire, from not only a quality standpoint, but from a relatable standpoint, up
Mhm.
against anybody else in the podcasting game. Period. And
I
so,
fully agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
so, yep,
Well, dude, it was great having you on. Great finally getting to chat with you a little bit longer than we have in the past, but man, I appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. I appreciate your time, man.
All right, buddy. And that is a wrap in camp. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Dan as much as I did. Go ahead and check him out at the space that he told you to, Sportsman's Empire. Or you can listen to Dan at Nine Finger Chronicles or the 2Ds podcast. You can find him all over the place, but you'll really enjoy his content. I know I've really enjoyed that new podcast he talked about. It's quite the entertainment. Um, if you like the show, and you don't wanna follow it, that's fine. Just keep coming back for more. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and leave me a review and a rating if you could. Tell me the good things, tell me the bad things. I wanna hear it all. And if you have any ideas, go ahead and send them over to incamppodcast@gmail.com. Check out the latest things that we've got going on at In Camp Podcast. I'm sorry, at In Camp underscore podcast on the Instagram. You can see, some fun things that we have going on during the week. Plus, you can keep tabs on the podcast. Anyway, I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for listening. This is In Camp Podcast.